Hi, this is Lori Johnson with Hancock Whitney Bank, and you're listening to Local Leaders, the podcast. Visit localleadersthepodcast.com for previous episodes or for information on appearing on the show.
Hey everyone, before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors for this podcast, the amazing people at Level Dumpsters. Look, LSU football kicks off September 1st, and here in South Louisiana, that means backyard get-togethers on the patio with family and friends. It also means cleaning up that backyard with roll-off dumpsters. Now, they have sizes ranging from 15 yards all the way up to 30-yard dumpsters. If you need a dumpster for your construction site, for your home, Level Dumpsters has you covered. So give them a call at 225-310-6647 or on the web at leveldumpsters.com. And mention Local Leaders to get $100 off right now for new customers. Level Dumpsters is a verified partner of Local Leaders, the podcast. Now, on July 24th of 2024, a new law came into effect, Louisiana's SB1. It amended Louisiana's existing law requiring a concealed carry permit to legally conceal a firearm in the state of Louisiana for anyone 18 years or older that could carry legally otherwise. But there were major caveats to that law that you need to be made aware of. Joining me today is, in my opinion, and many others, likely the foremost expert in the state on the subject, David Groce of P&D Gun Shop in Walker, Louisiana. So today we're going to talk about what has changed with that law, what P&D Gun Shop can do to help, and many other topics. So Dave, first of all, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
And this is your second time on Local Leaders, so you're a pro now.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be my co-host going forward.
All right, let's do it.
So a lot has changed in the past couple of months here in South Louisiana, well, in Louisiana in general. And a lot of that is to do with SB1. So I guess let's jump into it. Let's tell people about it and also what they may not know about it that we need to educate them on.
Absolutely. So at the beginning of the year with the new congressional session in the state, or the new legislative session in the state,
Yep.
Blake Miguez authored Senate Bill 1, which was ultimately passed and then signed into law by Governor Landry and went into effect on Independence Day of this year. July.
It's a great
4th.
Day for it to go into effect,
Yes,
I guess.
Probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
And what Senate Bill 1 did was Louisiana joined a list of other states that have constitutional or permitless carry, allowing, and our law specifically says that anyone 18 or older that's otherwise eligible to be in possession of a firearm can carry a gun concealed in the state of Louisiana. But there's some caveats to that, some prohibited locations that we're going to go over. But other than that, as long as you're 18 or older and are otherwise able to be in possession of a gun, you can carry a gun concealed, a handgun concealed in the state of Louisiana today.
So, and when we say otherwise able, I would assume felonies would be something, certain felonies you can't carry a gun regardless of.
Right, no felonies.
Yeah,
can't have
no
a felony. There's, if you're otherwise a person that's not able to be in possession of a gun probably knows.
Yeah.
And they've been told by law enforcement or by the courts that they're not able to be in possession of a gun.
Right.
So if they're otherwise able to be in possession of a gun, then they can carry no felonies for sure.
Gotcha. And other states have, some other states do have constitutional carry, but does the age change in some states? Like, do you have to be 21 in some states, or is it 18 and everywhere?
Most states, you have to be 21. Louisiana is one of the few states that allowed 18-year-olds, and I don't know how many there are. I believe there's 27 states now that allow constitutional or permitless carry.
Yeah.
Some of those states, though, you must be a resident of that state.
Gotcha.
Louisiana, the actual bill that was presented initially said residents of Louisiana, and then that residence was stricken out.
I wonder why that was.
And I don't know. But now, so in Louisiana, anyone 18 or older, you don't have to be a resident of Louisiana.
Even if your state requires a permit if you're in Louisiana without a permit and you're registered in a state that does require it. Let's say California. I don't know if they even allow guns in California, but if they did, probably not. But if they did, they would definitely make you have a permit. And so if you come into Louisiana, you're just bound by Louisiana law, basically.
Correct.
But I would also ask you, as a bona fide expert on this, and something that people probably need to keep in mind, Louisiana, if you leave Louisiana and you end up somewhere where a permit is required, are you in legal trouble if you're concealing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, some states may have permitless or constitutional carry, but only for the residents of their state. So you need to know the law if you're going to travel with the gun.
Yeah.
Specifically with a handgun. A lot of states, I'm originally from Indiana. I don't know what the laws are there today, but they used to be, if you're transporting a firearm in a vehicle without a permit, the gun had to be separate from the ammo, locked up out of the reach of the driver. It does you a whole lot of good at that point.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
And so some states, so if you're going to travel and you don't have a permit, you need to check out the laws, not only of where you're going to, but all the states that you're going to pass through.
Right.
Some states have some very strict laws, specifically up in the Northeast, Illinois, and some states out west. You got some very strict laws that you need to be aware of, because you could find yourself committing a felony. And if law enforcement discovers that, not only are you going to get a felony charge, but you could end up losing your ability to own guns for the rest of your life and or vote.
That's a great point. And I'll give you a real life example of that. And Florida has changed a lot in the past few years as far as guns are concerned and people's ability to carry them. But I don't know how many years, it might have been about 20 years ago, David, it wasn't that long ago, maybe about 15 years ago, I had went to Disney World, took my family, and I was raised, if you're going on a long trip, make sure you bring a handgun. You never know when you're going to break down on the side of the road on the interstate, and you don't want to have to go get gas or whatever in the middle of the night, and you don't have your gun on you. So we went to Disney World. We made it there. Everything was fine. I took the gun, put it in the safe in the hotel room, and we went about our business, and we ended up having to move rooms. And we moved rooms, and I left that gun in the safe. And I didn't remember it until I'm in the other room, and everybody settled, and I said, oh, man, I left my gun in that safe. So I called the front desk at Disney, and I said, I need to get a gun out of the safe of my room.
Probably didn't go too well.
Oh, David, you wouldn't believe it. A SWAT team showed up at my door, and they couldn't believe. The lady said, you had a gun on Disney property? And I said, it was in my car. I didn't want to leave it in my car. Look, that was all it took, and it wasn't 20 minutes later, and these were policemen. These weren't security at Disney. Mm-hmm. These were Orlando police. And they took my gun, would not give it back to me, told me they had to bring it down to headquarters, and I would essentially have to buy it back. So I would have to pay a fine, and they would give me the gun back, but they had to run checks on me. They had to do all this background work. It was crazy. And I'm like, and the guy kept asking me why I had a gun. And I said, I got 3 kids and a wife here. We came from Louisiana, and, I don't want to be caught slipping.
Why does he have a gun?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But it was my first experience with not knowing the laws of another state, because Louisiana at that time, it wouldn't have been no big deal. You could open carry in Louisiana with no problem at that time. Still could. So I say all that to say, make sure you know the laws. We're going to talk about some of those today, because it's not the Wild West. Just because you can conceal it doesn't mean you can go anywhere and everywhere with it. So give us an idea of some of that.
So first of all, Louisiana still does offer a concealed handgun permit. And the process to get that is you take a class, which we teach.
Yep.
And then you apply to the state. You pay the fee, you get your permit. They have 5-year and lifetime permits. The fees vary depending if you're a veteran or free, all the way up to $125 for a 5-year permit. People 65 and older pay half price, which is $62.50.
Yeah, and that's 5 years. On
5
that.
years.
So
yeah.
that's
So $25
very
a year.
reasonable. Yeah.
And then they have a lifetime permit, which is $500. Veterans are free also, or over 65 pay half price, $250. But you still have to take training every 5 years.
Yeah. And that permit, when you get a concealed permit and it's for Louisiana, you get it in Louisiana, you're a citizen or a resident of Louisiana. Does it work in other states? How does that?
Louisiana has reciprocity with 38 states total. There's 38 states that recognize our permit. So as long as you have a Louisiana permit in those 38 states, you're fine. You can carry a gun concealed.
Yeah.
Now, you, of course, have to adhere to their state laws.
Sure.
Louisiana doesn't have a law against printing and printing is just where, you could see the outline of the gun through a shirt or something like that. Some states consider printing brandishing, which is no different than me pulling a gun out.
Wow.
And so
that's interesting.
So you need to be abreast of the laws and then also prohibited locations. What places that you can carry in Louisiana may not be the same in Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, Florida.
Sure. Yeah. Very interesting. Similar to my experience in Orlando. Mm-hmm. I mean, their gun laws were at that time were completely different, apparently, and I found out the hard way. So let's talk about the change in this law, that the concealed change, and how it relates to where you can go, because it still matters if. You obviously still can't carry it in a courthouse, for example, even concealed, right?
Right. So I've actually spoken with Blake Miguez, the state senator who authored this bill and sponsored it and got it pushed through and approved. And almost everything is the same as to where you can go without a permit, but there's a couple of exceptions. And one of the big ones is school zones.
Yeah.
And this is a federal law, and he told me that they are working to get this federal law changed, but of course that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Sure.
But this federal law is that you cannot be within 1,000 feet of a school, and that doesn't matter if it's public, private, everything from elementary to colleges, universities, technical schools, beauty colleges. You can't be within 1,000 feet of a school with a gun, handgun, long gun, doesn't matter. It's that 1,000-foot gun drug-free zone without a concealed handgun permit.
Okay.
Now, if you live within 1,000 feet of a school, of course you can do what you want in Louisiana for the most part on private property.
Sure.
And your vehicle is considered your private property, so you can drive by a school with a gun in your vehicle. But if you walk by a school within 1,000 feet of a school, or for whatever reason you're just out and you're on public property within 1,000 feet of a school, then you're committing a felony.
Major
stuff.
Felony. Yeah.
And the law says that you're subject to, here's the actual penalty, is any person who violates this law is subject to 5 years of hard labor, no more than 5 years of hard labor.
Wow. I don't want to do one day of hard labor. Much less 5 years.
You know a lot about Angola. Imagine being there for 5 years, buddy.
I don't want to be in that field for 5 years for sure. And serious stuff. I mean, this is gun-related charges. And you could be someone that, maybe you didn't know, but that doesn't matter in the eyes of the law. Ignorance isn't in the defense.
And it actually even states it in the law that just the fact that you didn't know you were within 1,000 feet of a school is not a defense.
Yeah.
And let me tell you about one thing that's happened in a city not too far away, New Orleans. What New Orleans did when they tried initially to get the legislature to put the entire French Quarter as a gun-free zone. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, Louisiana passed a law that said that gun laws that local municipalities couldn't enforce or couldn't enact tougher gun laws than the state.
Yeah.
which is only fair because, I live in Walker. I shouldn't have to worry if I come to Denham Springs what the rules are in Denham Springs because they're going to be different. And so the state legislator said, nope, we ain't doing that. And so New Orleans took this existing federal law that there is no way around right now and said that they took their French Quarter precinct and turned it into a sub-campus of their police academy.
Yeah.
Now it's a school. Now you can't have a gun within 1,000 feet of that precinct, which pretty much covers the entire French Quarter.
Yeah.
And so it's not, unless you have a permit, it's not a huge deal for, obviously if you're drinking, you probably shouldn't have a gun down there. But plenty of people go to New Orleans not just to drink, just to do this.
That's right. Some people go
scenic stuff.
And eat.
And yeah, absolutely. And but think about the people that live there, that live in the French Quarter. And, a lot of them park on the street. Just that little bit of crossing from their doorway, crossing the sidewalk to get in their car, they've committed a felony.
Yeah.
And if law enforcement wants to enforce that, then they could lose their rights to ever own a gun again.
And these could be good people, good citizens, never committed a crime in their life. And that's something that I always tell people to keep in mind is the only ones that don't care about laws are criminals.
Right.
And so a criminal, they're going to conceal carry no matter, in a school, around a school, all those sorts of things. But those of us that are law-abiding citizens that respect the law and follow the law, we need to know about those things because we're not criminals. And that's primarily why we're discussing this today, because a lot of people did not realize. You brought up drinking. And I am in my research of this, if you have a blood alcohol level of 0.5 or higher.
0.05.
0.05. Yeah. Excuse me. 0.5. Woo. We're partying at 0.5, David. We are partying. 0.05 or higher, you're in a bind. You can't conceal carry at 0.05.
Carry, period.
Or carry, period. Yeah.
And, 0.05, that's usually one drink for most people.
Yeah.
Drink, shot, beer, glass of wine, whatever, going to put you over that legal limit.
Yeah, and they do take that serious. Maybe you've only had one. Maybe you're not drunk, but you've had one beer, but it's enough to blow that 0.05, and you've got a gun. Ooh, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're legal to drive, but not legal to carry a gun.
No, that's right. And so just be aware of that, because I have talked to several people who, they didn't realize that if they go in a bar and they drink a beer, a single beer, and they've got a gun in their pocket, just don't let the police get you with it, because
Absolutely.
They're going to throw the book at you for that. And let's talk about that real quick, too, while we're on the subject, because I've had discussions with several police officers about what this does from their perspective, because a lot of these officers are they're already concerned about who has guns and who don't. But one of the things from an officer's perspective, and most of these police officers are Second Amendment people. They're totally want gun rights and they believe in gun rights. But if you put yourself in their position, now you've got a law to where everybody can be carrying something that nobody can see at all times. What would your advice be to someone that is pulled over and let's say in a car, or they're approached in a setting and they have a concealed weapon?
So the law actually says if you have a concealed weapon, it used to be if you had a concealed handgun permit, that you had to notify law enforcement. Now, if you have it concealed, period, you have to notify law enforcement that you have a concealed gun, concealed handgun. So if you're stopped in a traffic stop, you witness a crime, witness a wreck, any professional contact with a law enforcement officer, if you're armed, you have to notify them.
Yeah.
And then that gives that officer the right to ask you to submit to a pat-down, to ask you to disarm you if they choose to do so, and also to ask you to submit to a breathalyzer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had, in the conversations I've had, officers have told me the best thing you can do is if you're pulled over and we approach you at your window, put your hands on the steering wheel and say, I have a I have a gun in my glove box. I'm just letting you know it's there or whatever.
But what I teach in my classes, especially with a permit, you think about you're pulled over on a dark street at night, you got your windows down, and you don't see the cop coming up on the passenger side of the vehicle. You're just watching the driver's side, and you say, I got a gun, and then all of a sudden the guy on the passenger side shows you his.
Yeah.
What I
so do I.
Right in your face.
Right.
But what I suggest is I put my permit on the front of my license, and rather than using that scary G word when a police officer walks up to my vehicle, I'm handing my permit and my driver's license with the permit on top.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over a couple times, and every time it's gone well. The fact that I notified them immediately puts them a little more at ease.
Sure.
And the fact that I got a permit, you not only did you go get trained and get educated on the law, but you also had a background check, so they know that you're probably not a criminal. You're probably not the people that they need to be worried about.
Yeah, the ones they need to be worried about, they're not telling them about the gun.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an old saying: just because you can, don't mean you should. Mm-hmm. And so the requirement to have a permit has went away for all intents and purposes. However, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a permit, I guess would be the way of voicing that. And what are the things that, for your permit classes, what are the things that you learn in those classes?
So first of all, I think the most important thing is just the education overall, the education on when and where you can carry, or when and where you can't carry, more importantly.
Yeah.
And then the safety aspect of it. Look, Jim, I teach these classes every week, and I've seen people that come that claim to be experts that scare the life out of me when we go to the range.
Yeah.
And so, and remember, a lot of people in South Louisiana have grown up with guns.
Sure.
But they've grown up with long guns. They've grown up hunting.
Yeah,
so
12 gauge in the back of the truck window.
They ain't got pistols.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about putting a pistol on your body, and a lot of them don't have external safeties, and even if they do, safeties do malfunction.
Sure.
It not only the training aspect of when and where you can carry, but on how to get the gun into the fight. A gun that you're carrying on your hip that you can't get out quickly and get into the fight. Most violent encounters take place at double arm's length distance and are completely over with in under 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Most people that strap a gun on every day can't get the gun out of their holster in under 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you'll be a victim with the gun on your hip if you don't know how to get it into the fight quickly and know how to use it safely to where you don't shoot yourself while you're trying to draw that gun.
Yeah, very good point. And so you teach that in that class. If you have a permit, you're law abiding.
Right.
First of all.
Yep.
Right? You can't get a permit if you have a felony.
Correct.
I would imagine that would disqualify.
Yeah, if you're a prohibited person, you probably ain't gonna get a permit.
Yeah.
Either, so.
Right. The classes that you teach. Let's kind of go into that a little bit, because in addition to permitting, with what we have now, what I wouldn't want to see personally a whole bunch of people do is then take a gun and hand it to your college-age daughter and say, here, put this in your purse. It's legal now. Right. Pull the trigger. This is what you do. You pull the trigger if someone, point it at them and pull it. Guns are not to be played with. Experts with guns have accidents. Accidents happen. But the point of training is to eliminate or significantly take away the circumstance of that accident happening. So your classes, y'all, I'm telling you, they are second to none. One of them you teach, speaking of handing a gun to your daughter, is you teach a woman's class on handguns.
Right. And so I'm married, and I got a daughter, and I don't dare teach either one of them because they're not going to listen to me. They're going to do the complete exact opposite of whatever I say.
I totally get it.
But when you're talking about a kid, a daughter, son, doesn't matter. When our kids turn 16, they're eligible to get a driver's license. But we don't just toss them the keys and say, here's the keys of the car, go drive to Baton Rouge and pick up whatever for me. they go to driver's ed and they get some time behind the wheel and learn how to drive so that they don't get out there and kill themselves or kill somebody else. And that's the big benefit of having the class is learning not only, when and where you can have the gun, but more importantly, how to carry it safely so that you don't hurt yourself, you don't hurt somebody else. And you can't take that bullet back. When it leaves that barrel, it's gone for good.
That's right.
And you're responsible for whatever it hits and destroys. And if you don't know the gun, don't have confidence in the gun, you're not going to. It's going to be pointless to carry it. It's no different than any other tool. If you're not confident with it, you don't trust it, you don't know it, and the only way you're going to get that, develop that confidence and trust is through training and education. And so,
typically, more often than not, the females and the males of the house, the females are a little more fearful of guns. I know in my household it's like that. I'll tell you a quick story about my wife, and I guess I'll tell everybody this story, but at one point I had pulled my gun out of the nightstand, and I pulled the clip out and I was looking at some things, and then I put it back in the nightstand safely. And my wife says, "You're not going to leave that thing loaded, are you?" And I said, well, it's not going to do me a whole lot of good if it's not loaded. Someone busts in the house. But honestly, that freaked her out. And this was early on in our marriage, but it freaked her out because she was scared. I didn't realize we never had that conversation. So I didn't realize she was scared of guns. But just the fact that gun was loaded totally freaked her out. And there's a lot of people like that. So I think another advantage to that class is, it'll make that person more confident with the gun and realize that if you use a gun properly, it's nothing to be scared of. You don't have to fear a gun. As a matter of fact, it can be your friend in the right situation.
You need to respect it.
You need to respect it.
I don't fear electricity, but I sure respect it a lot.
That's right. That's right. That's a great analogy. So that is a class that you offer. There's real estate safety classes that you offer. There's a ton of realtors in Livingston Parish specifically, and they meet with clients at all hours. A lot of them they don't know.
In an empty house.
So it's opportunity city for someone that has bad intention.
Right. And so with the ladies especially, we offer a women's only first-time handgun owner class, more of just how to use the gun safely, how to rack the slide properly. A lot of ladies think they can't rack the slide on a gun, and it's all in technique.
Yeah.
Most ladies can rack most guns if they know the technique correctly, and we teach them that. And then we also teach them what gun best fits their hand. A lot of times these ladies are going to a big box store and they see a small gun and think, oh, that small gun is little recoil. Them little small guns, I shoot all the time, and I hate shooting them.
Yeah.
And if you got a wife that you don't want to shoot a gun, get her one of them little small guns, and she'll change her mind. She'll never shoot again.
That's a great point.
If you want her to carry a gun that she's comfortable with, then a little bit bigger gun can absorb a lot more recoil.
Yeah.
And they're not that hard to conceal if you know what you're doing. And just like you said, unless you're willing to put a round in the chamber and load that gun up, it's kind of pointless when you think about it. You got 5 seconds, and now you got to realize what's happening and then get the gun into the fight. It's
dig around for a clip. You're just waking up out of a dead sleep. All kinds of things can happen. So it's and that I really like about your classes is that you have classes geared specifically towards ladies that they may not want a bunch of men around while they're learning how to do this, right?
Right.
Certainly not their husband who's probably going to be, you're doing it wrong. And you know how it is. So there are some options there, which I really like. But you also have some classes for, maybe it's people familiar with guns, but they're not familiar with like the AR-15, for example, which is a different animal than a Glock 42. you offer fundamental classes for ARs, introduction classes.
So we the two funnest classes that I offer that I love to teach and I love to take and people have a lot of time with or have a good time with our self-defense pistol course, our intermediate self-defense pistol, and then the AR-15. Both of those are all on the range, about 4 to 5 hours on the range. We'll shoot about 500 rounds of ammunition.
Wow.
And we're not going to empty 30-round magazines all at once. We'll shoot, for the pistol course, we'll shoot 3 to 5 round shots at single and multiple targets. Depending on your comfort level and my comfort level with your ability,
right.
We're going to go to drawing from concealment because, the bad guy's not going to come up when you got the gun in your hand. The bad guy's going to come up at the best opportune time for them and not for you.
That's a great point.
And so you got to get the gun into the fight. And so that intermediate self-defense pistol, we start out very basic and then progress up. They're small classes, and we progress and we get to the point where you're drawing from concealment and shooting at single and multiple targets. A lot of fun, and it really builds your confidence in that gun.
Yeah.
The AR-15 course, very similar. We take the first part of the class and teach all the basics of America's #1 sporting rifle, the AR-15.
Yeah.
How to take it apart, how to put it back together, all the nomenclature, how to personalize it. AR-15, you can have it just plain Jane as it comes off the factory floor, or it's like a car. You can add all the bells and whistles that you want on it.
That's what I want.
And then once we and it's very easy, very basic, very easy to maintain. It's designed to be maintained without tools.
Yeah.
And then we shoot, and same thing. We're going to shoot about 500 rounds in about 4 hours, and 2 to 4 round shots at single, multiple targets, and just teach you the fundamentals, and it's just that, just that reinforcing it over and over and over again until you get it down.
Yeah. And look, y'all, these are classes you can't just find anywhere. I have a lot of businesses on this show that I'm like, man, we're pretty fortunate to have a company here locally that offers this and that. And you're one of those companies. You offer so many things. And y'all, look, this guy was a military guy for how many years, Dave?
22 and a half.
22 and a half years. We love his service, and what that does is it lends legitimacy that this guy knows what he's talking about. And he's been around guns and trained the best of the best with weaponry. And so for us to have that right here in this area is pretty awesome, and you can't just find that everywhere. It's rare that you find someone that can teach a wide array of classes like this. Now, you do offer a permitless carry class. Correct. As well as a conceal carry class. So tell me about that.
That permitless carry class, we cover the prohibited locations without a permit, and the biggest one is that school zone.
Sure.
Being within 1,000 feet of a school. And then we cover the laws of self-defense, because the laws of self-defense apply to you whether you have a permit or not.
Right.
And so you can't just shoot somebody that's walking through your yard, or that's breaking into your car in your driveway, that's unoccupied and all that stuff. And a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
And so you could very well find yourself on the other end of the law, just defending your own personal property. Someone breaking into your car and you go out and start pointing a gun at them, or worse yet, kill them. You might find yourself living the rest of your life out in Angola.
That's right. Drag them in the house. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. But you're right. And shooting people, from the way I understand that law, you can only use enough force that is considered reasonable for you to get away. So, in other words, if you shoot someone in the leg that's coming at you and then they turn around to run and you shoot them 4 times in the back,
you might have
a little explaining to do on that one. But those are things you're going to learn in that class and that you need to know. Heck, you need to know that regardless, because that situation could come up. Sadly, y'all know I do another podcast about crime and hot and heavy with crime on that podcast. This is not the best time in Louisiana as it relates to crime. And we've got a lot of crime right in our back door here in Livingston Parish, across the line in Baton Rouge. And, you know, it's as bad as it's ever been there, in my opinion. No better time to learn gun safety, learn the laws pertaining to guns, and don't just go out there and buy a gun willy-nilly and you've never shot one. Look, I've had friends, David, that have guns and they've never shot them, and they've had them 20 years. And that's fine, but if the situation ever comes down to where they have to use it, they don't have any training, the likelihood of them panicking is probably a lot higher.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, all the classes that we teach are based off of what the body does naturally in response to that stimuli of being attacked, that fight or flight. You know, unless you got something wrong with you, we can pretty much know how people are going to react when it comes to a violent encounter. You're going to hit that flight or flight mode. And if you haven't had training, you're not going to know what to do. In the Army, we taught, you know, we talked about all the time, train as you fight, because at the end of the day, you're going to fight how you've trained.
Yeah.
And if you haven't trained, you don't even know what to do when the need arises.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. Muscle memory, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Especially in a situation where you're in danger, because your brain is just going to go to, like you say, fight or flight. It's going to be all reactionary. Mm-hmm. And probably the biggest key to training and learning is through taking these classes. Mass shooter response, which is an interesting class that you teach. Tell me about that.
So that class is really designed more for schools and businesses and churches and things like that, but how to respond to a mass shooting. Unfortunately, we do a very horrible job at educating our children when it comes to mass shootings. Department of Homeland Security teaches run, hide, fight in that order, but all we teach in our schools is hide. Yeah. And you hear all these mass shootings, and most of these mass shootings you hear of deaths and very few injuries. And it always puzzled me, why are there, surely this guy isn't that good of a shot that
most of them are 20, kids.
Yeah.
Sadly,
shoot 20 people and 20 of them died. No, I ain't buying it. But then when you understand why that happens is because, again, those children, they don't know any different. They know that they were told to hide, and then the bad guy comes in the room and they freeze. And then he's got stationary targets that just pick them off one at a time. Yeah. And so if you look back at all the school shootings, that's exactly what you see, is that these kids just they're unprepared for that incident, and so and that doesn't just happen in schools; it happens in workplaces and
churches.
Churches,
yeah. I mean, some pretty major incidents, and look, it's a sad subject that nobody wants to talk about, and I think that's some of the problem with it, and why you don't see more people taking advantage of that. To me, every teacher in every school should have that class. There should be a certification that they are required to take. The likelihood, let's say the likelihood of a teacher, we hope nobody ever has to deal with that. And the likelihood is low, comparatively speaking, to the amount of schools there are in the country, but it could happen. And a class like that could be a difference.
Absolutely. Knowing what to do. In the absence of a plan, people are going to create their own plans. And my granddaughter told me that when her teacher told her that if the bad guy comes in the room, they're all going to try to jump out the window. And I'm like, you don't want to do that. Now you're going to make a nice, neat pile for the corner outside the window.
Yeah.
And so, run, hide, fight. If you can run, get away from it, go. And, most people can judge from gunshots that it's happening way far away. I got time to get my kids out of here.
That's right.
And then if you can't, then you hide. And if they come into the room or you encounter them, then you fight like hell. And there is no such thing as a fair fight. If I'm throwing desks, chairs, book sacks, laptops, it doesn't matter. 25 first graders attacking a grown man are going to subdue him pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so, but we got to teach them that.
That's right.
And we got to teach, when it comes to violence in the workplace and violence in churches, schools only account for about 25% of all these mass shootings. The rest happen in workplaces and churches and things like that, nightclubs. And people you don't hear as much about it because it's not as tragic as it is, 20 school-age kids dying.
Absolutely.
But it's happening everywhere. And so you never know when you're going to need to respond to a mass shooter. Never going to know when you need to carry a gun. Crime used to be confined to the nighttime. All you got to do is just look at the paper, look at the news every day of the week. Especially in our area here, it's happening everywhere. The drugs and the crime is just out of control.
Out of control. And I'm a big believer in that confidence creates a sense of a little panic in someone's mind. And so the more that I know, the more confident I feel that if I'm in a situation like that, I'll know what to do. And so when that situation may or may not present itself, whatever it is, taking classes like this, in my mind, just gives me the confidence to know that maybe I won't panic, because panic will get you killed.
Oh, absolutely.
In a heartbeat. Most people will freeze. When they panic, they don't have any kind of muscle memory. They just sit there. And it doesn't matter how big you are, how strong you are. If you don't know what to do and you haven't drilled it, there's a high chance you're going to panic in a situation when it really goes down. P&D Gun Shop, y'all. It's in Walker. It's at 32290 Susser. Is it Susser Lane? Sasser Lane. So it's right there in Walker. I've been to it. It's 20 minutes from my studio in Denham Springs. And they stock over 100 guns at any given time, correct? Roughly?
We probably got a little more than that.
Yeah?
It started out as a little hobby business, and then COVID took care of that and turned it into a full-time job.
There we go.
It was just something in my backyard to keep me busy, and then it turned into a full-time job. But we are a full-service gun store. When you pull up, like I said, my shop's behind my house. We probably got 100 long guns on the wall, and then probably the same number of handguns in the shelf. And then we've got all your ammo, accessories, knives,
tons of
a lot
knives.
of knives.
Yeah,
especially around Christmas time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to mention you do Cerakote finishes.
Yes, sir.
And we were talking a little bit off camera. Y'all, look, if you got a man in your life, or if you got a woman in your life that loves guns, and you want to do something special for them for Christmas, you may have to tell them you need the gun, because once they notice it missing, they're going to freak out. But just tell them it's a surprise and get that sucker coated. You can do all kinds of things. Camo.
We can do
American flag.
We get all kind. So we can do everything from just one simple color. Ladies like the teal guns, or pink or purple. We could do camouflage. We can do different designs. And Cerakote is just a very thin but pliable and paint that will keep the gun from rusting. And it's very durable, so it's not going to rub off as you're putting it in and out of a holster.
Yeah.
And it's just going to last for a long time.
And you can also do a clear if you don't want paint on there necessarily, but you want something to protect it.
Right.
You can just do a clear on it, and it'll still protect it. Those sort of things. You also offer engraving. Another great gift idea.
So we do. We have a laser engraver that engraves on wood or metal. We don't do anything other than guns, but wood we can engrave into a stock. We can engrave very fine, intricate details into a stock.
Yeah, and some pictures should be popping up right now of what he's talking about, y'all. And you talk about intricate and down to the nth degree of whatever you want to put on it.
And then the metal engraving is the same. We can, we can put your name on a gun if you wanted, or we can put your business logo on a gun, or we can. We've done a couple of patriotic 1911s with "We the People" stuff and flags.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And so we can even engrave, like on the front of the barrel bushing on a 1911, engrave something on that. So this thing is. You might not even be able to read it, that it's so small, but it will engrave it. You can look at it through a magnifying glass and see that it's very, very detailed. We can also engrave, for those that have suppressors and things like that, we can engrave your serial numbers and all that stuff onto your NFA items.
Yeah, very good. And as I say, you should be seeing some pictures right now of the beautiful work you do there. And of course you carry tons of knives. And I forget, there's one up there and I need to get it, David, but it's the push button. It just pops right out. So it's like a switchblade, but not a switchblade.
Like this one right here.
Yes.
It's out the front knife.
Spring loaded. Yeah.
These are legal in all 50 states out the front.
That's a cool knife.
They'll stop if they hit something, so you don't have to worry about it cutting you if it comes open in your pocket.
Yeah.
And lifetime warranty on these things.
And let me tell you, stick that in a stocking and watch the smile on your spouse's face when they get that. There ain't hardly anyone walking earth that wouldn't want one of those.
We sell a ton of these at Christmas time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So some great gifts. And, of course, this time of year, heck, it's almost September, so it's right around the corner. Mm-hmm. On something like the engraving, about what's the turnaround time on something like that? And I know it matters what you're getting done, but average, maybe allow a couple of weeks or
a couple of weeks normally.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I have it. The guy that does my engraving works for me part time. So right now he's in New York, but he's coming back here in a few days. But normally within a week, if he's in town, I can have it done. So.
Very good. And another thing we want to mention, in addition to your store, is you offer gunsmithing services. Another thing that we're lucky to have around here is good gunsmiths like you that can fix, I guess, pretty much any issue with a gun that's fixable.
Most issues.
Yeah.
I'm a gunsmith, and then I have another gunsmith that works for me, and he's very he don't like to let a problem beat him, so he's gonna work.
It's a challenge. He likes a challenge,
and so we can do most things as long as we can get parts for it. And some parts we even actually have to make at times. But yeah, we do gunsmithing, and we can thread barrels. We can lighten your trigger. We can do custom stuff. We can just repair guns. You'd be surprised how many guns break out there, just common things that happen. And,
sure.
And so we can repair them, and we got a pretty fast turnaround on that as well.
And I'll tell you, there's probably a lot of people out there that have heirloom guns, for example, that maybe been passed down, and maybe they want to see if it's in operational order, or maybe it looks like it's in operational order, but it's 100 years old, and you want to make sure that if you fire it, it's gonna, it's not going to be a problem. Yeah, the barrel ain't going to fly off. That's something that they could take to you, and you could figure out for them.
I think we fixed every heirloom gun that was in the closet during COVID, when everybody was at home and went through all their closets. Man, we had so many guns in for gunsmithing, and
really,
oh yeah, we had a ton of them.
Ain't that something? A lot of you're sitting around your house and you're like, what is it that I need to get done that I've never had? Because a lot of people are stuck at home, and one of those things was guns and painting your house. A lot of people painted their house, those sorts of things. I believe it or not, I still have my very first gun I ever got when I was I might have been 9 years old. I got a crack barrel shotgun to squirrel hunt with, a crack barrel. And I still have that gun, but I'd be scared to death to fire it. I might let you look at that one
we'll
first.
Look at it and make sure it's good to go. It's probably good to go, but
yeah,
we'll just double check it and make sure.
Yeah, it's really a cool looking gun, and I'm a nostalgic guy. So if you have any gunsmithing needs, give them a call. Another thing I want to ask y'all: do y'all offer like zeroing out of weapons and things like that?
So we do free bore sighting on rifles.
Okay.
Bring it in. We'll bore sight it for you for free. It doesn't take but just 10, 15 seconds to actually knock it out.
Wow.
And any parts that you buy from us, generally we install them for free. So if you buy a scope or something like that, we install it for free and we'll bore sight it. Now, bore sighting isn't the same as zeroing, but it's going to get you on paper and save you some ammo.
Yeah.
We can zero it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really ideal that you zero your own rifle, but
Sure.
if you don't know how to or don't have the time to do that, we can zero it for you. But we can definitely bore sight it for you for free.
Yeah.
And,
very cool. Very good. How has, I guess I would have this question for you. You know, when you saw this law take effect, or lack of law now, where you don't have to have the permit technically. One of my thoughts when it first happened was, well, for someone that teaches permit classes, this could be a good thing or this could be a bad thing. You know, your hope is that people say, I still want to learn regardless of whether I have to. And really, major purpose of why we're talking about this today is to hammer down the fact that, you know, the fact that you have the right now to conceal that weapon, it's still very important you educate yourself on it. Did you see an uptick maybe, or was it pretty much the same? Or from a gun purchase standpoint, did you see a jump in purchases of guns?
Not really. You know, I've had several people come in and say, oh, I don't need a permit anymore. And then I explain to them why they probably still need to get a permit. And there's some other reasons why to get a permit. You know, you have first of all, being able to be within 1,000 feet of a school. With a concealed handgun permit, I can walk right down Range Boulevard right in front of Walker High School and the elementary school there and have no fear whatsoever. Now, I can't step onto school property with it unless I'm in my vehicle.
Yeah.
But if you're otherwise just walking down the road, you can't get within 1,000 feet of that school. So that's one of the main benefits. Secondly is the reciprocity, so being covered in 38 states total, that you can have that gun with you. And then a lot of people, especially in Louisiana, that have TWIC cards and things like that, people get delayed when they purchase a gun. When you purchase a gun in Louisiana, most people leave with the gun right after they pay for it. You know, within minutes they're out the door. Background check process is pretty quick. Some people, however, though, I know you probably ain't gonna believe this, but our federal government's not very efficient. And so I know it's hard to believe, but people get delayed for a variety of reasons. You might have a very common name. You might have, somebody used your name in the past and committed a crime or just a variety of reasons.
Believe it or not, I got delayed. I had bought a pistol one time, and the guy come out and he says, well, it's 5 days. And I said, why? And he said, I don't know.
They don't tell us.
Yeah, they didn't tell. And to this day, I have no idea why, but I got delayed, and 5 days later he said, okay, you can come in and get it. And so that was fine with me. If they wanted to, make sure I wasn't a crook, then that was fine. I was curious as to why, but I never did find out. But
you can find out. You can contact the ATF, and they'll tell you why you got delayed, and then issue you what's called a UPIN, a unique personal identification number. But also, if you have a concealed handgun permit in Louisiana and you go to purchase a gun, as long as a permit was issued in the last 5 years, that we go online and make sure your permit's still valid. But that eliminates that background check process. You still fill out the form, We just don't have to call it into the ATF.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And also one other thing on permits that I would also say is just like this law was changed to now, permitless carry, it can always change back.
Oh, yeah.
And, so if you have a lifetime permit concealed, if it changes back, you're the same. You don't have to worry about it. No big deal. So for the cost of it alone, it's not an expensive. It's not what I would classify as an expensive class. But also on top of it, what you get out of it, the value you get out of it is worth so much more. And you've got that permit. You don't have to worry about it no matter what the law says. I do give the NRA, and I do support the Second Amendment, but I also support education. And I think that anybody that has a weapon that can kill another person needs to be educated on how to use it. And that's where you are so valuable and your business is so valuable with that. I also want to mention that you can go on his website. It's pdconcealcarry.com. And you can they have an option where you can check out the classes and you can schedule right there online.
Yep. Schedule
Can't get no better than that. But I encourage you to go out there because they have a cool shop. Trust me, if you at any length like guns or knives, you're going to end up there an hour and a half just staring at all the cool stuff.
I promise you, we got some stuff in there that appeal to just about anybody.
Absolutely. Holsters also, y'all. Bullets, if you need just bullets. Go support local businesses. Get your bullets from a local business like P&D Gun Shop. I promise you, David will take care of you, the good people over there. And thank you for coming on again and educating us a little bit. Any final thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you for having me. I do want to mention one other thing real quick, Jim, is, when they signed Senate Bill 1, Blake Miguez also authored and got Senate Bill 2 pushed through and signed by the governor, which went into effect the same day on Independence Day of this year.
Yep.
And Senate Bill 2, another benefit of having that permit is it gives immunity to civil lawsuits if you're otherwise justified. Now, you have to be otherwise justified, but if you use a gun in self-defense and law enforcement says you were justified in doing that, if you have a concealed handgun permit, if you're a veteran or if you're law enforcement, you have immunity from civil lawsuits.
That's huge.
Yeah, and we're in a sue happy state. So
that's what I was about to say. Let me tell you, if you're involved in a shooting, I'm gonna give you a scenario, people. If you're involved in shooting, someone comes on your property and they kick in your door and you shoot them right there, they're gonna sue you if they live. They're gonna sue you, period. Because some lawyer is gonna get a hold of them and say, we can sue these people. When David just mentioned it has to be lawful, just like he teach you in your classes. If they're running away from you and they're halfway out of your driveway and you shoot them in the back 4 times, it's not going to give you immunity on that.
Right.
But if you're in the right and you're defending yourself and you can prove that you're defending yourself, that gives you full immunity just by having that permit.
Correct.
That's huge. And why do they give you that? Because you have education behind you. You've been to classes where you know how to properly handle that situation.
Yeah, and I, a lot of people will say, well, if you take a class that you're going to be held to a higher standard, and my argument to that is, first of all, if you have a lawyer that allows you to be held to a higher standard, you need to fire them.
Right. Because
if I go out here to Range Boulevard and on my motorcycle and do 150 miles an hour and never see a speed limit sign, does that mean when I get pulled over that I'm not going to get a ticket? No, I'm going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I didn't know the speed limit is not going to be a defense. And,
that's right.
And so when you educate yourself, I view it as I went and got educated, and therefore I knew that I didn't have any other option, and the gun was my last resort. And even if they die, their family can sue you.
That's right. That's right. Very good point. And it's sad. It's sad that defending yourself leads to those things, but that is the world that we're in now. And so education will not only keep you to where maybe you don't put yourself in a position that you don't even realize you're putting yourself in, because you know what's right and what's wrong and what's legal and what's not. But it'll also kind of give you the peace of mind of, hey, we're standing behind you if you get in a situation where something sadly would happen like that. So
Absolutely.
protect yourself out there, people. It's a world's a crazy place right now.
Yes, it
to
is.
say the least. But thank you again for coming on. Look, man, love your business. I bought things from you. I'm about to take a class here pretty soon with one of David's classes, but also going to get some more equipment that we've been talking about. So maybe one day I'll set it up for the next podcast we do. I'm not going to tell. I'll let y'all be surprised at what I'm getting. But thank you so much for coming on. I always appreciate it and have a good time.
All right, Jim. Appreciate you.
Thank all of y'all for listening. And look, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow. If you need more information on P&D, I'm going to link it in the description of this podcast. I'll have his website and his Facebook. Give him a like on Facebook. And that way you can stay tuned, because he's probably going to be running some sales and things like that as it gets closer to Christmas. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much.